My name is Helen Brooks. I'm 60 years old, and I will tell you the kind of story most mothers hide in their graves. People look at me now and see only a quiet old woman with silver hair and tired eyes, but if they knew what I carried inside, they would never look at me the same way again. I was once a wife, a mother, and a woman who believed in family above everything. I raised my children with trembling hands, fed them with sacrifices no one ever saw, and gave up every dream I once had just to make sure they could live better than I ever did. But do you know what hurts the most? Not hunger, not poverty, not loneliness. It's when the very child you gave your life to, one day looks you in the eye and betrays you. I never imagined I would face such a moment inside a bank. Of all places, sitting across the counter, pen in my hand, my son urging me to sign papers I didn't understand. And then the cashier's voice breaking the silence, reading aloud the words that almost destroyed me. And tonight, I will finally tell you what those words said, why my son wanted me blind, and how that day tore my heart apart forever. Tell me, would you sign if the person you loved most in this world was the one pushing the paper toward you? I remember that morning vividly, as if it were carved into my memory with a knife. The sun was bright, the air crisp, but inside me there was only a storm. My son, Michael, had called me the night before. His voice was soft, persuasive, almost trembling with urgency. "Mom," he said, "tomorrow, we just need to handle a small matter at the bank. Nothing serious, just a signature. I'll be with you the whole time." A mother's heart never stops trusting her child. Even when life has torn pieces out of you, even when you've learned the world can be cruel, you still want to believe that your own blood could never betray you. So I dressed carefully that morning, my old gray coat, a scarf around my thin neck, and shoes that have carried me through to many winters. My hands trembled as I locked the door behind me, not because of fear, but because age does that to you. Michael met me outside with a smile. Oh, how I wanted to believe in that smile. He held my arm gently as we walked toward the bank. "You'll just sign, and everything will be okay," he whispered. But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of desperation that he quickly tried to hide. When we entered the bank, the smell of polished floors and paper filled the air. People were standing in line, money exchanging hands, pens scratching across forms. I felt small, fragile, as if I didn't belong in that world anymore. Michael guided me to the counter where a young cashier, barely more than a boy, sat. Behind thick glasses, Michael slid a paper across the desk. "My mother just needs to sign this," he said smoothly. I looked at the paper. The words blurred before my old eyes. I reached for my glasses, but Michael's hand stopped me. "No need, Mom. It's routine. Just a signature." That moment, oh God, my heart sank. Why wouldn't he let me read? A tiny voice inside me whispered, "Something is wrong." But louder than that voice was the memory of years when Michael was a little boy, running into my arms after school, kissing my cheek, saying, "I love you, Mom." Could that boy really harm me? I picked up the pen. My hand shook. I was about to sign when the cashier suddenly frowned. His eyes scanned the paper. Then he looked at me. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "are you sure you want to sign this?" Michael's face went pale. "Just do it, Mom," he hissed. The cashier cleared his throat and read aloud the hidden words printed in small letters at the bottom of the page. "Full transfer of ownership, property, assets, and account to beneficiary, Michael Brooks." My world stopped. The bank noises faded. I couldn't breathe. Ownership, assets, my house, my savings, everything I had worked my entire life for. I turned to Michael. His jaw was tight, his eyes wild with panic. "It's just paperwork. Mom, don't listen to him. Sign it." But my soul, oh, my soul cracked wide open. I saw, in one single moment, every sacrifice I had ever made for that boy. The nights I went hungry so he could eat. The mornings I walked in the cold so he could have bus fare. The years I spent breaking my back to give him an education. And now this. I whispered, barely able to speak. "Michael, why?" He avoided my eyes. His hands trembled. "Because I need it. You don't understand. Just sign." The cashier looked between us, nervous, sensing the storm. People in line began to glance over, their faces curious, suspicious. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I was frozen, caught between the memory of the boy I loved and the man standing before me, trying to strip away the last pieces of my life. I put down the pen. My hand was shaking too much anyway. My chest felt heavy, my breath shallow. Tears filled my eyes. "Michael," I said softly, "you are asking me to sign away my life, my home, my soul." His lips tightened. "It's just a piece of paper, Mom. Trust me, but it wasn't just paper. It was betrayal in black ink. And at that moment, with the whole bank watching, my son leaned closer and whispered words so cold they pierced my bones. If you don't sign, you'll regret it. The moment those words left Michael's lips, if you don't sign, you'll regret it, a chill swept through my bones. I stared at him, my son, my flesh and blood. And for the first time in my life, I saw a stranger standing in front of me. The bank felt colder, the walls closing in. The cashier shifted uneasily, clearly wishing he hadn't gotten involved. A line of customers watched from behind, their whispers like tiny knives pricking at my skin. I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, but my voice trembled. Michael, what are you talking about? Why would I regret not signing? What are you hiding from me? He leaned closer, his hand pressing hard against mine, forcing the pen back toward my fingers. His eyes were no longer soft, they burned with desperation, with something darker I couldn't recognize. Mom, please, I can't explain right now. You just have to trust me. Sign the paper and everything will be fine. But trust is fragile. Once broken, it never returns whole. I pulled my hand back. Michael, if you need money, if you're in trouble, we can talk. We can figure something out. But this paper, it's not love. It's theft. His jaw tightened, his face flushed with anger. For a second, I saw that little boy again. The one who cried when he broke his toy. The one who begged me not to let the monsters in the dark take him. But that boy was gone, replaced by a man whose eyes now mirrored those very monsters. The cashier coughed nervously. Ma'am, I can't let you sign this unless you're fully aware of what it means. It's your right to know. Michael snapped his head toward him. Mind your business. His voice echoed across the room, sharp and venomous. People gasped. I felt my knees weaken. My son, my Michael, was shouting at strangers just to force me into signing away everything. I whispered. Why are you doing this to me? To your mother? He froze for a moment, his chest heaving, and then his eyes dropped. Because I have no choice. My heart sank further. No choice. What did he mean? What kind of trouble was he in that stealing from his own mother seemed like the only way out? I placed my trembling hand on his arm. Tell me the truth. Michael, please. Look into my eyes and tell me what's going on. But he wouldn't. He kept looking down, avoiding me. His silence was louder than words. And then suddenly, another voice cut through the heavy air. Double quotes, Mrs. Brooks. I turned. Standing a few feet away was a tall man in a dark suit. His presence was commanding. Almost too perfect, like someone out of a courtroom drama. He stepped closer, pulling out a badge. Detective Harris. We need to talk. The entire bank seemed to freeze. Michael's face went ghostly pale. I clutched my chest. Detective, what is this about? The detective's eyes softened as they met mine, but his tone remained firm. It's about your son. He glanced at Michael, who now looked like a trapped animal. Michael Brooks is under investigation. Fraud, forgery, and worse. My world spun. The room tilted. I could barely process his words. Fraud? Forgery? My son? Michael shook his head violently. No, it's not what you think. His voice cracked, and for a moment, I thought I heard the boy inside him again. But the detective continued, ignoring his protest. That paper he's asking you to sign. It's part of a scheme, Mrs. Brooks. If you had signed it, you would have lost everything. Your home, your savings, your life. Gasps rippled through the room. I felt hot tears roll down my cheeks. I wanted to collapse, to vanish into the floor. My son, the boy I raised with every ounce of my soul, was being accused of betraying me in the cruelest way. I whispered, almost to myself, Michael, is this true? His eyes met mine at last. There was no smile, no softness, only despair. His lips trembled. Mom, I didn't want you to find out like this. The detective stepped closer. Mr. Brooks, you're coming with me. Michael took a step back. No, I'm not going anywhere. And before I could move, before I could even catch my breath, Michael did something that shattered what little hope was left inside me. He grabbed the paper off the counter, crumpled it in his fist, and ran. Stop him. The detective shouted that the bank erupted into chaos. Customers screamed, chairs scraped, and feet pounded against the tiled floor. I stood frozen, tears blinding my eyes, watching the son I once rocked to sleep flee from the land from me, and in that moment, I knew my life was about to change forever. When Michael bolted out of the bank, it felt as though he ripped my very soul from my chest. My legs trembled beneath me, and for a moment, I thought I would collapse right there on the polished floor. The detective rushed after him, shouting orders into his radio. Customers scattered, the air filled with panic and gasps. But I stood still, my heart shattering in slow motion. That was my son. My boy. Running like a criminal. I sank onto a nearby chair, pressing my hands over my face. Images of Michael as a child stormed into my mind, his tiny hand holding mine on his first day of school, his laughter echoing through our old kitchen, the way he used to whisper, "I love you, Mom," before bed. Those memories collided with the scene I had just witnessed, his cold eyes, his desperate voice, his betrayal. The detective returned moments later, his chest heaving. Michael was gone. He approached me carefully, almost as if I were made of glass. "Mrs. Brooks, are you all right?" I lowered my hands, my cheeks wet with tears. "No," I whispered. "I don't think I'll ever be all right again." He sighed, pulling a chair closer. "I need to tell you the truth, but it won't be easy to hear." I braced myself, clutching the edges of my coat. "What has my son done?" The detective opened a folder he carried, sliding photographs onto the table. My breath caught. They were pictures of documents, legal forms, checks, deeds, all forged. My signature, copied. My name, stolen. "He's been forging your signature for months," the detective explained softly. "Taking loans under your name, transferring small amounts from your accounts, building up debts in your credit. This paper at the bank was meant to finalize it out to give him full control over your assets." I shook my head violently. "No, you're wrong. Michael would never, he's my son." But deep inside, I knew. I remembered the little things, the sudden withdrawals I never made, the bills I didn't understand, the nights Michael avoided eye contact when I asked him questions. All the pieces began to fit, and they cut into me like shards of glass. The detective placed a hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry. I know this is devastating, but you need to understand. If you had signed today, you would have lost everything." Double quotes, everything. The word echoed in my mind like a scream. I had already lost so much in life, my youth, my health, my husband years ago. All I had left was my home, my dignity, and the son I thought would protect me. And now even he was trying to take that away. I buried my face in my hands again, sobbing quietly. The detective let me grieve in silence for a moment before speaking again. "We're going to find him. He can't run forever. But Mrs. Brooks, when we do, we'll need your testimony." Testimony. The very thought sliced through me. Could a mother testify against her own child? Could I stand in a courtroom, point to Michael, and say, "He betrayed me. He forged my life away"? I didn't answer. I couldn't. That night, I sat alone in my small living room, the house painfully quiet. Michael's absence was like a wound, raw and throbbing. Every creak of the floor, every shadow on the wall reminded me of him. His laughter once filled this space. Now only silence did. I walked into his old bedroom. The posters were still on the walls, faded and curling. His childhood toys sat in a box in the corner. The bed was unmade, as if he'd left in a hurry years ago and never looked back. I picked up a small stuffed bear from the shelf. The one I gave him when he was 5. He used to carry it everywhere, even to bed. I held it against my chest, tears streaming down my face. How does a mother stop loving her child? Even when he destroys her, even when he betrays her? I whispered into the darkness. "Where are you, Michael? Why did you do this to me?" But the walls gave no answer. 2 days later, the phone rang. My heart pounded as I picked it up. A voice crackled through the line. It wasn't the detective. It was Michael. "Mom," he said softly. My knees buckled, and I gripped the table for support. "Michael, where are you? What have you done?" He was silent for a moment, then whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go this far, but I need your help." I froze. My heart screamed to say yes, but my mind whispered no. "Please, Mom," he begged, his voice breaking. "If you don't help me now, I'm finished." And then, before I could reply, the line went dead. I stood there, the phone shaking in my hand, torn apart between a mother's love and the truth I could no longer ignore. The moment I dropped the phone, my heart felt like it had been torn in two. Hearing Michael's voice again, it was like a knife twisting inside me. He sounded desperate, broken, but still, he was my son. I sank into the old armchair in the corner of the living room, clutching the receiver as if it still carried his voice. His words echoed, "If you don't help me now, I'm finished." How could a mother hear that and not respond? But then I remembered the photographs, the forged signatures, the detective's words, fraud, forgery, worse. I closed my eyes and whispered into the empty room. "God, what do I do? Do I save my son? Or do I save myself?" The following day, Detective Harris came to see me. He looked tired, his tie loosened, his expression serious. We traced the call, he said. It came from an abandoned motel outside the city. But when we arrived, he was already gone. My chest tightened. So he's still running. The detective nodded. Yes. And Mrs. Brooks, I need to ask you again. If we catch him, will you testify? The word cut through me like broken glass. Testify. It felt like betrayal. Like signing the final death sentence for my own child. But wasn't it already betrayal that brought us here? I don't know, I admitted, my voice shaking. Harris studied me carefully. You need to think about it, because whether you testify or not, Michael's actions are catching up with him, and when they do, you'll be the one left with nothing or worse. After he left, I wandered my house like a ghost. Every room carried Michael's shadow. The dining table where he used to do homework, the hallway where he took his first steps, the back door he used to slam when he stormed out as a teenager. Memories haunted me at every turn. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the ticking clock. My mind kept replaying his voice. That desperate plea. Please, Mom, I need your help. And then, around midnight, there was a knock at my door. My breath caught. Slow, deliberate knocks. Not the sharp raps of a stranger, but softer, almost hesitant. I rose from bed, my hands trembling as I clutched the doorknob. 1,000 thoughts raced through me. Was it the detective? A neighbor? Or... I opened the door, and there he was. Michael, his face was pale, his eyes sunken with exhaustion. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair disheveled. He looked nothing like the confident young man I once knew. Instead, he looked like a boy, lost in the dark. Mom, he whispered, his voice cracking, please, don't shut me out. For a moment, I just stared. Part of me wanted to slam the door, to protect myself, to scream at him for the pain he'd caused. But another part, the part that still remembered rocking him to sleep, pulled me forward. I opened the door wider. Come in. He stepped inside cautiously, glancing around as if the shadows themselves were watching him. When the door clicked shut, silence wrapped around us. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I had fed him as a child. He lowered his head into his hands. I didn't want you to find out like this, he said. I thought I could fix it before you knew. Fix what, Michael? My voice broke. You forged my name. You tried to take everything I own. You stood there in the bank and lied to me. Why? He lifted his head, and for the first time, I saw tears streaming down his face. Because I owe money, Mom. A lot of money. 2 people who don't forgive. I thought if I could get your assets, I could pay them back before they came for me. My blood ran cold. What people? He hesitated, then whispered, dangerous people. Men who don't care if I live or die. If I don't pay them back soon, they'll kill me. The words struck me like a hammer. My son wasn't just a criminal. He was a man standing at the edge of death. I covered my mouth with my trembling hands. Oh, Michael, what have you done? He reached across the table, grabbing my hands with his. His palms were sweaty, shaking. Mom, I know I betrayed you. I know I don't deserve your help, but please, you're all I have left. If you don't help me, I won't survive. Tears blurred my vision. My heart screamed to save him, but my mind remembered the detective's warnings. If I helped Michael now, would I be saving him, or destroying myself? Before I could answer, headlights flashed through the kitchen window. A car had pulled up outside. Michael's grip on my hands tightened, panic flooding his eyes. They found me. I froze. Who? He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. The men I owe. They're here. The moment Michael whispered, they're here, my blood ran cold. The headlights outside poured through the curtains, slicing the darkness of my kitchen. I felt like prey, cornered in my own home. Michael stood, pacing like a trapped animal. His eyes darted to the window, then back to me. Mom, you have to help me. If they break in, they'll kill us both. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but my voice was gone. Michael, what did you do? He ran a hand through his hair, trembling. I borrowed money, Mom, too much. I thought I could pay it back. I thought I could gamble my way out of it, but I lost everything. They gave me one last chance and I failed. That's why I needed your signature. Your assets were my only way out. Tears filled my eyes. My son had dragged me into his darkness, and now danger was parked right outside my door. A loud knock shook the house. This one wasn't soft or hesitant, it was violent, threatening. Michael grabbed my arm. Don't answer. Just stay quiet. But the pounding grew louder. Then a voice, deep and menacing, called out, Michael Brooks, we know you're in there. Come out, or we'll come in. I gasped, clutching Michael's hand. What do they want? He whispered, money, blood, maybe both. Another slam rattled the door. I felt my chest tighten, fear clawing at me. For a moment, I wished I could go back in time, back to when Michael was a boy. When the scariest thing in our lives was a thunderstorm. But those days were gone. Mom, Michael said, his voice shaking, you have to choose, help me, or let them take me. I stared at him, at my son who had betrayed me, lied to me, nearly ruined me, and yet, he was mine, my flesh, my blood. Could I really hand him over? Before I could decide, the front door burst open. 2 men stormed inside, tall, broad, their faces hidden in the shadows. Their footsteps shook the floor as they entered my kitchen. One pointed at Michael. Time's up. You've run long enough. Michael stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body. For a brief second, I saw the boy he used to be, the boy who promised to protect me. Please, he begged the men, just give me a little more time. I can fix this, I swear. The taller man sneered. No more lies, Michael, you don't pay. You disappear. I couldn't breathe. My son was about to be taken, or worse, killed right in front of me. Something inside me snapped. My fear turned into fire. I slammed my hands on the table and shouted, enough. My voice, though old and cracked, carried all the strength of a mother's love and fury. The men turned, startled. I stood, trembling but firm. You will not hurt my son in my house. The shorter man laughed bitterly. And what are you going to do, old woman? Stop us. But before I could answer, flashing red and blue lights cut through the window. Sirens wailed. Tires screeched. The men cursed under their breath. Cops. Michael froze, his eyes wide. You called them. He whispered to me. I hadn't. But then I remembered, Detective Harris. He must have been watching, waiting. Following the trail, the men bolted toward the back door, but officers swarmed the house, guns raised, shouting commands. Within moments, the 2 strangers were dragged out, handcuffed and furious. The chaos ended as quickly as it began. Silence filled the house again. Only Michael and I remained. Standing in the wreckage of broken trust and shattered illusions, Detective Harris stepped inside, his expression grim. Mrs. Brooks, are you all right? I nodded weakly, though my body trembled. I think so. Then his eyes shifted to Michael. The softness vanished. Michael Brooks, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. My chest ached. My knees buckled. Wait please, I whispered. Michael's face crumpled. He looked at me, desperation flooding his eyes. Mom, don't let them take me. Please, I'm sorry. I'll change. I swear, I'll change. Tears streamed down my face. In that moment, every part of me wanted to run to him, to shield him like I did when he was a child. But another part, the part that had endured his betrayal, his lies, his crimes, knew this was the only way. I stepped forward slowly, my voice breaking. Michael, I love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean covering your sins. Sometimes, love means letting go. His mouth opened as if to protest, but the officers pulled his hands behind his back. The clink of handcuffs echoed through the room. He looked at me one last time, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mom. And then he was gone. Taken into the night, I collapsed into my chair, sobbing uncontrollably. My house was quiet again, but it wasn't peace, it was the silence of loss. That night, as I sat alone in the dark, I whispered to myself, I gave him life. I gave him everything. But in the end, I couldn't save him from himself. And maybe that was the hardest lesson of all.